We will go ahead and get started. My name is Celia Kudiamat. I am the Senior VP of Community Impact and Grants at the Inland Empire Community Foundation. I am being joined today by two of my colleagues, Yasmin and Denisha, who will be helping out with the components of the chat and also the demonstration of the online application. Also with us today is Mariela Trujillo, who is our fabulous interpreter. And I want to give Yasmin and Denisha a chance to introduce themselves and then turn it over to you, Mariela, for instructions going forward. Okay, Denisha, Yasmin, unmute.
Hi, I'm Yasmin. I'm Program Associate here at ICF.
And good evening, everyone. Denisha Shackelford with the Inland Empire Community Foundation Program Manager.
Buenas tardes y muy bienvenidos a todos. Para aquellos que necesite interpretación, en unos momentos empezaremos con eso. En la parte inferior de su pantalla aparecerá un icono de globo. Podrá hacer clic ahí, escoger el idioma español y si usted gusta apagar el audio original para no estar oyendo las dos voces. Y con eso comenzamos. We are ready.
Okay, great. So hopefully as you join us, for those of you who just joined us, please feel free to introduce yourself on the chat, indicate your affiliation if you are with a nonprofit, or if you are an individual artist or both. So that way we can kind of capture who is with us today. Can I just see a show of hands who are from nonprofit organizations? Okay, so I've got a couple, 3. Okay. Oh, quite a few. Okay, 1, 2, 3. Yeah, so we have 4 or 5. All right, 6. All right, so it looks like we have about maybe half of you are from nonprofit entities and the others are individual artists, which is great. As you know, this is a technical assistance workshop. We will be going over the guidelines of the Creative Core Inland SoCal program. We will also go over the online portal application for both the individual artist application and the nonprofit organization application. This is very straightforward. I am assuming that you have had a chance to take a look at the guidelines. You don't necessarily have to already establish your account and started your application. This is an opportunity for you to take a look at that and all the questions and ask clarification for each of the elements that are in the guidelines first, and then any questions you might have on the online application. So it's going to be very directive. We're going to follow that format. And along the way, I'm going to pause to see if there are any questions pertaining to that component of the guidelines or the application form. Okay? All right. All right. So let us get started. Yasmin, can you kind of do the honors and provide a little demo and how you get to the guidelines from our website?
Okay, so I'm not muted, right?
No, you're good.
Okay, good. Okay, so this is our website at iegives.org. Let me click back on the home page. So this is the home page of our website. I am going to go ahead and click on nonprofits here. And once I click on that, it takes me to this page for nonprofits. One of the tabs here says grant opportunities. I'm going to click on that. And the first option under grant opportunities is the Creative Core Inland SoCal application. I'm going to click on that. And here's a description, the dates of when it opens and when it closes, amount range. And here it has the grant guidelines and the instructions, which you can download. There's also the project information and then also the online grant application. Do you want to go over the grant guidelines first, Celia?
Yes, let's go over that.
So I'm going to go ahead and click on this, and it'll take me to a PDF.
So just a little bit of background. I think you already know that 60 million have been set aside from the governor's office to really support artists and nonprofits who hire artists to really put them to work to address COVID impacts in 4 different areas. So this is a rare opportunity for all 14 regions in California to be able to get a chunk of dollars specifically for this purpose. So for the IE, which is Riverside and San Bernardino counties, the Inland Empire Community Foundation and the 2 major arts councils for San Bernardino County, which is Arts Connection, Riverside Arts Council for Riverside County, and also the Coachella Valley, California Desert Arts Council joined together to really implement this program. So it's a wonderful opportunity for all of us to work together. We have not worked, all of us collectively. IECF has worked with Arts Connection separately and Riverside Arts Council, and minimally with the Desert Arts Council, but not really as a collective. So as a collective, we are called the Creative Core Inland SoCal. We named ourselves that, making sure that we have a unique identity for this particular program, which hopefully will also carry on beyond the grant funds once it sunsets in 2024. So really the main goals are pretty directive. It's all about putting artists to work, and that is inclusive of culture bearers to make sure that they are serving their communities. And it is also an opportunity for nonprofit organizations to hire artists to be able to put them to work to address certain areas in the community. And these 4 distinct areas encompasses public health awareness, which is all about pandemic recovery, public awareness of environmental issues, whether it's about climate change, water and energy conservation, and emergency preparedness, relief and recovery, civic engagement, such as voter participation, and social justice. So those are the 4 main areas. Can you go to the next page or scroll down? Any questions about the goals?
Yeah, I have a question.
Sure.
So does like mental health like count as like public health awareness?
Absolutely.
Okay, awesome. Thank you.
Absolutely. Yes. These are very broad subject areas. So I think that, you know, because it is about arts and culture, I think a lot of the different issue areas will kind of fall into one of those categories. So tribal commitment, we really want to encourage our tribal nations and our native neighbors to really be a part of this grant opportunity. So this is kind of a statement that we want to make sure that you know, we reach out specifically to this particular population, to the tribal population. The other area of focus that we are very mindful of is the accessibility component, which is making sure that those who who have special needs, who are deaf, hard of hearing, or deaf blind, who have difficulty speaking or have other physical abilities, feel welcomed and are included in this whole process as well. We embrace equity and inclusion as part of this program. This is in alignment with what the California Arts Council is also embracing. So we want to make sure that these are front and center in terms of how we do outreach to different parts of the inland region. Any questions about that? Okay, let us move along. So who can apply? As I mentioned earlier, there are two target populations. One is nonprofit organizations. These are those who have a 501c3 designation from the IRS and are not classified as a private foundation. Straightforward. But for those organizations who want to apply on this, under this category, and if you do not have a C3 designation from the IRS, we are welcoming also fiscally sponsored organizations, meaning that a non-501c3 entity can find a partner who has a C3 status and work together to be able to apply for this grant opportunity. What we do ask is that there is a letter of agreement just to make sure that there is an understanding of what the relationship is going to entail in terms of whether the fiscal sponsor is going to require some kind of administrative fee, and to make clear that the fiscal sponsor is the receiver of the grant if successful. However, the entity that is being fiscally responsible, fiscally sponsored, is really the implementor of the project. So we want to make sure that that is clear on this agreement. We are encouraging local government entities such as cultural affairs departments of either Riverside County or San Bernardino County or any other local districts. And as I had mentioned earlier, any tribal authority or tribal nations to be able to apply as well. So we do have our non-discriminatory clause that we need to ensure is front and center as far as who is applying, and that these funds are designated for organizations that are located and serve the residents of Riverside County or San Bernardino County. All of California, divided into 14 regions, received a pot of money for this Creative Core program. So any LA artists that are residing in LA primarily, but want to work in Riverside, unfortunately, the LA artists need to take advantage of the monies that are in LA County. Same thing for San Diego, and same thing for Orange County, which are our neighboring communities. Any questions about the eligibility for organizations?
So yeah, there's a question not about what you just stated, but from Catherine, who asked in the chat, who counts as a cultural barrier? You use bridges that carried us over project as an example. Would this funding support ongoing work for bridges, for instance?
So cultural barriers are, usually, any person from an ethnic group that is doing work to promote traditional types of and promote and preserve cultures. And I can probably get you guys some more formal definition of that, but I think that's the simplest way to to describe that. Does that make any sense, Catherine?
Yes, and I'm sorry, I'm in a noisy location. That's why I was
Oh.
using the chat. I apologize for the noise behind me. Well, yeah, I guess it was twofold. It was actually explicitly also asking if the Bridges That Carried Us Over project is eligible to apply for the funds. It's housed at San Bernardino, and is an ongoing project. It was used as an example, and I was just very curious about whether that would, it poses a question, right? Because people who have been interviewed and are part of that project are in fact culture bearers, but are the people who are running the project culture bearers? Or do you follow the distinction I'm trying to make?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The culture bearers are the ones that are actually being interviewed. So the organization that hosted it, I need to kind of take a look at that, but so the individuals that were interviewed are eligible to apply as individuals, right? And then the entity that actually, is hosting it is also eligible to apply.
Okay.
It just can't be the same kind of project. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah. It would need to be a new project.
Right.
Okay. Got it. Yeah. Thank you so much. That really helps.
Sure. Any other questions about that?
There's another question, Celia, from Nicole. Does this include folks who do spiritual/cultural work? Example, church ministries of the diaspora passing down folk dances and history.
Yes. The only complication with that is that the applicant, if it is a faith-based organization, that organization need to have a C3 status. So that's the distinction that has to be clear as far as who is the applicant. Any other questions before we go into the individual artist eligibility?
No.
Okay, let's move forward. Again, with the individual artists, you have to be 18 years old or older. You have to be a resident of Riverside or San Bernardino County, and your proposed project must take place in Riverside or San Bernardino County. And that's the same thing with, of course, the nonprofit organization. The funds are designated for in the Inland Empire, and so the projects must happen in the Inland Empire. And then it says, and serve a community in quartile 1 on the HPI. So we can talk about that on the next component as far as target communities. Any questions about the individual artists? I think we had some preliminary questions about residency. That we need to make sure that if you are an individual artist that want to apply for the IE funds, that you have to primarily or full-time live in Riverside or San Bernardino County. Now, one of the other components as far as eligibility, and we can go over that in the, the amounts of grants that you can apply for when you're applying as an artist on behalf of a collective. So we can go over, that's the other kind of nuance of who can apply under an individual artist kind of category. Okay. Oh, sure.
So the artists themselves, they don't have to be like from quartile 1. They just have to, the project itself needs to help quartile.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah,
Okay. So
absolutely.
if I live in quartile 2, then
yeah, quartile, yeah. So let me, since you're already asking that, can we just go over this Healthy Places Index then?
Yeah, sure.
Is that okay? Yeah, let's, because this is kind of like one of those things we're in, this is the target community, right? So when we look at the target communities, these are the communities we're in. We want to make sure that there is an opportunity for the community to really have access to art and be able to have the opportunity to have programs in their communities. Because a lot of times, if you take a look at, if you have had a chance to take a look at the California Healthy Places Index, it does identify several factors wherein economic circumstances, education, social factors such as transportation, health, access, these are things that they take into consideration when it determines which communities are in the lowest quartile. In Riverside and San Bernardino counties, I provided like 131 zip codes that were identified in the census tracts. So there's different ways of how you could take a look at the communities, right? I pulled out the zip codes. I had our program associate pull out the zip codes for you guys to kind of see as an example where these communities are. Can you pull that up, Yasmin, so I can kind of show it to the group? So this is the Healthy Places Index, where you could see the map and the census tracts. So if you would rather see a map, you go through this, there's a tutorial, and you'll be able to see where the communities are that are I think have the darkest color, and those are considered the first quartile. Now, can you pull up the zip code table that was included?
Sorry, I said it was on. Let me do it again.
No, it's not on. Now it's just the, now we just have everyone's faces. So that's the Healthy Places Index, but we have, we have the zip codes, the table of zip codes.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have that? You can't find it? So did any of you get a chance to take a look at the zip codes?
Yes.
Okay, so within those zip codes, within the 131 zip codes, there's a quartile kind of numeric designation. Anything that's 1 is really the lowest quartile. Those are the target communities wherein we would like for applicants to consider doing their projects. Second quartile is not bad. The different quartiles are really all about who do we prioritize in terms of applicants, and when we review, we want to prioritize those applications and applicants who are actually targeting the first quartile. So it's a prioritization in terms of who will get funding, given all the scoring, scoring rubric considerations. So the HPI component is only one consideration. And when we go to the online application, we will show you what the breakdown of those narratives are as far as points. Sarah, you have a question.
Yeah, hi. I looked at that map and I noticed that the area where I work with a nonprofit, and we serve a lot of the little micro geographical areas within the larger area. And I noticed that like certain zip codes might have 2 different colors.
Yeah.
So like Yucca Valley has a light blue and a dark blue. And I'm wondering how that plays out when you're serving like a larger area and you plan to have a project that takes place in different places.
Yeah, so I think that in your narrative, it will be very important for you to describe that, right? You know, as long as you are covering one of the darker areas, I think that will definitely be considered as a priority, especially in Yucca Valley. You know, I mean, this map is not, you know, perfect, right? As far as identifying where the communities of needs are. It does not include a lot of unincorporated areas and definitely does not include tribal land. And so that's why we wanted to emphasize the tribal commitment, because it may not show up in the map.
Thank you.
Okay, Benjamin?
Yeah, so my questions are, so you say like we have to do our projects in quartile 1. Does that mean that like we have to showcase our projects within quartile 1, or we need to hire people from quartile 1?
Showcase. Like
Okay,
you showcase your project in quartile 1. Hiring the artists, where you live and all of that, you do not have to be in quartile 1, but your work based on the 4 different issue areas need to prioritize those communities.
okay,
And,
so
and again, I would focus on 1 and 2. But if you can do 1, because these are the communities that normally have access to arts and culture programs.
okay, so let's say like for my project, I would like to produce like a couple of short films.
Yep.
So for that, as long as I'm like able to like show my projects within like a certain theater in quartile 1, then I'm meeting the requirements.
So the subject, what is the subject matter of your film?
Like mental health, like they're about like generational trauma and how it like affects kids.
Okay, so the population that you're going to be targeting, are they for showcasing mental health?
Yeah, well, my targeted audience is like teenagers within our certain areas, and then it's I want it to like kind of give them like an insight as to like why like certain things are occurring to them, and then also like give them hope that like that people are like creating art within their area.
Yeah, okay, yeah, that could work. You know, the other thing, so yeah, that could work. Absolutely. I mean, I think your project may be a little more complicated in terms of target population, and then where you're going to show it, right? That kind of a thing. So what we could do is we could take it offline. You know, we'll have office hours if you want to drill down a little bit more on that. But I think as long as you're targeting some of those areas in terms of who you're interviewing and who you're showcasing, and definitely where you're going to show it, that should hit the mark.
Well, my thought process is like, if it's like a video that is produced, then it can be shown like literally everywhere, right?
Right.
So like basically all we need is like for the theaters within the certain quartiles to be on board, and then like for them, my thought is like it's like if it's large enough, it like they would want us to like, because it's like we're not charging them for people to basically come into their doors, because that's how theaters make money, by like selling like popcorn and stuff, right? So by like basically giving like away free tickets and free shows that people are going to watch, then I think that, you know, it makes sense that they would want to like cooperate. So then I think like most of our money would probably go towards like advertising and production.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah. If you have more questions, you know, we can set up a time to call. I mean, to talk about it more. Where are you located? Are you in Riverside, San Bernardino, or the desert?
I live in Lake Elsinore. So
okay.
quartiles.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So we also have the Riverside Arts Council. If you want to talk with Rachel, so she can kind of help you flesh that out also as
And just, can you
part of the
put her,
application process.
can you put her email in the chat, please? That would be awesome.
Sure.
Thank you so much.
Yes, will you do that, Rachel's? Okay, any other questions about the Healthy Places Index? Adriana.
Hi, yes. I had a question on, I guess, mostly because I'm applying as an individual artist, but I was confused. I do work with a few nonprofits, but are you supposed to basically pair up with a nonprofit to produce, or is it kind of like you get the grant as an artist and then you can hold spaces with the nonprofits? I think that that's the only part in my narrative that's a little bit confusing, is that am I supposed to be saying this is specifically the community that I'm working with? Because I live in Indio and we cater to Indio, Coachella, Mecca, like the East Valley, which is all quartile 1.
Yep.
So do I basically say that I'm teaming up with, or do I just say that I don't know. I guess that's the part where I'm a little bit confused,
Yeah.
because I've worked with them in the past and I know their audience and I know that they all serve, like quartile 1. But I think my biggest concern in writing the narrative is, am I just supposed to be saying it from my perspective and what I'm going to be working with, or how I would be working with a nonprofit to reach the demographic?
It's going to be coming from you if you're applying as an artist.
Okay. Okay.
So
great.
it's going to be your narrative. If those nonprofits that you work with want to apply on their own to hire artists, that's a different application. But for you as an individual, it's pretty much your narrative, not the nonprofit.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Great. Okay, can we go back to the application, Yasmin? Guidelines, so we can finish that up. Okay, I'm not seeing it. Oh, there you go. All right, so the next component is really, just for your information, we are providing you with different categories that are eligible for this grant opportunity. So these are, just examples of what would be eligible. So it's really, up to you in terms of what you'd like to propose. Can you scroll down? Thank you. And then all the way down so we can talk about the 4 key areas. So, I already talked about that. Public health awareness, civic engagement, social justice, and environmental. So these are the 4 components wherein your projects need to be focusing on. So any project that you propose need to be either environmental in nature or civically engagement in nature, has to do with social justice or public health. So choose one, at least one. If it happens to hit multiple components, that's great, but you don't have to hit all of them, just one. Okay? Any questions about that? All right, okay, just moving along. So grant categories and amounts. I think, as I had mentioned earlier, it's a very generous grant opportunity that we have. We received 4.75 million. We have 3.8 million that is available to be granted to both Riverside and San Bernardino counties. 2.4 million of that is designated for nonprofit organizations, 1.4 million for individual artists. So those are the categories. So for the nonprofit entities and agencies, the local agencies that I had talked about, who will hire and employ artists and culture bearers, can request at a minimum 25,000 to 150,000 maximum. 80% of the funds must be used to hire artists and to compensate them, artists and culture bearers, and no more than 20% of funds may be used for administrative, overhead, and program expenses. So if the organization want to use 90% of the money that they got for artists, that is fine, but you cannot, the nonprofit cannot go beyond 20% for programmatic, admin, and overhead expenses.
So a quick question in the chat from Amelia, can we facilitate multiple art forms in our project?
Absolutely. Just be clear about it. Absolutely, you could do that. And when we go into the narrative component of the online application, there are limitations to characters and words. So depending on how you want to kind of frame or develop your project, just keep that in mind.
And then we have another question from Catherine. If we are a nonprofit with materials from cultural barriers and want to bring those materials to artists to work with, do we need to have committed artists, or can we explain the way we are planning to do outreach to identify and sub-grant funds to the artist?
Yes, one of the bullet points here says the agency or nonprofit does not need to have the artist identified at the time of the application, but you do need to tell us how you plan to reach out and identify your artists. Like, you need to also tell us, like, how many artists are you planning to hire and engage, and give us a sense of what kind of compensation are you planning to give to them. So that also includes a timeline to make sure that you hire your artist early on, so that there is enough time to actually implement the program. So you do not have to have the artist identified, but you need to give us a sense that of a timeline for how you do that. And what's going to happen is, if you are successful in getting an award, the disbursement of the award will be pretty much conditioned upon the hiring of the artist. Meaning you're going to get your money, probably you're going to get a portion of your money at the beginning, and then you get the rest of it once you identify the artists and how you're going to pay them. Does that answer your question? Is that you, Benjamin?
Yeah, so I have a couple of questions. So like, so if I like outsource like the production of my like the the production manager, as would that go under like my 20% of administration, or would that go under the 80% of?
If you outsource it, if you are applying as an artist, right?
Yes.
So you're applying as an individual artist, the outsourcing of the production is going to come out of the 20%. Because the 80% needs to be for compensation to you as the artist.
Oh.
Yep.
Oh.
Isn't that great? So you need to pay yourself first.
Yeah.
That's really the whole point.
That is interesting. Crap. Could I take out of my 80% though? Because I feel like it's going to be a pretty big team, and I'm just.
All right, let's take it offline, because it sounds like your project has a lot of nuances and particularities. Okay.
Yeah. So just email the person email Rachel. Right?
Yeah.
Okay. Cool. Sounds good. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions on the nonprofit side of things?
We have a couple more questions in the chat, Celia.
Sure.
Annette, must artists be hired on payroll or can they be independent contractors?
It's up to you. You could do one or the other. You know, you could put them on stipend depending on how much money is going to be set aside for them.
Okay, and we have Irene with a question. Would the cost of production of a play, for example, be included in the 20%?
Yeah, that's kind of similar to what Benjamin was asking for his film. So yes, production of the play will have to come out of the 20%.
Okay, and we have Nicole with, can budget be used for things like prizes for poetry slams or play festivals?
So any kind of incentives and prizes will come out of the 20%.
And those are the last questions in the chat. Thank you.
All right. Okay. Okay, now let's go to individual artists. So individual artists and culture bearers who are applying independently. So you are solely applying for your own project. Minimum of $10,000 to $50,000. If you are applying as a collective, so if you as an artist want to bring on maybe some, or you're mentoring artists, minimum of 3 of you, the main applicant, who is not affiliated with a C3 organization or fiscal sponsorship, you can apply between $50,000 to $100,000 maximum. And as mentioned earlier, the lead applicant can only be one individual, and then you just name your partner artists in the application. Similar to the organization category for how you use the funds, 80% needs to be for paying the artists and 20% for programmatic, admin, or overhead expenses. And to note that artists can only be funded and hired through one application. So if you are an individual artist, so who is it? Adriana. So you are applying as an individual artist. If the nonprofit organizations that you work with want to have you be a part of their application, that will, you can choose to do that, but you will not be paid. You cannot be a paid artist from a nonprofit applicant and an individual applicant. So no double dipping, in other words. You either apply in one category or the other.
Yeah, no, I know that the nonprofit that I was thinking about was not gonna apply. So, but honestly, I would, yeah, no, they have a lot of private donors, and they just at this time are a little bit too busy and hectic in their schedule. But honestly, the program that I was gonna run, I would like to work, you know, just out of their space and not necessarily have to work with them, if that makes sense. So then,
oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
That's kind of why I was confused. I was like, I don't know if this is like what's the best, but then yeah, I think it'll just be better as an individual artist, and then just maybe use that 20% to either rent space from them or, you know, something like that.
Yeah. Yeah, I was just using you as an example.
I have a question.
Sure.
So I want to apply as a collective, and this family that I want to apply as a collective might be interested, and I'm probably going to encourage them to also apply as an individual. So could that happen? They could apply and see which one.
No.
Could I apply, be the main for the collective, and then this particular family apply individually?
They can apply individually. You as an individual and part of a collective applying, if you intend to pay those family members as part of your collective, if they apply individually, the review committee will not consider, will consider only one
Okay.
one applicant to be the to be awarded. So it's going to complicate things for you and the collective.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I will. Okay, I will.
Yeah. So choose another person, either that
Yes.
or yeah. So yeah, you want to maximize. So one thing to think about, you know, for the collective, these are pretty generous amounts of money for the collective. I would say 3 maximum. If there's 6 in your collective, split it into 2, identify 2 lead applicants so that the 2 collectives will be able to secure as much money as possible, right? Because one collective, 50,000, no, one collective up to 100,000, the other collective up to other 100,000. So you've maximized, you know, your funds to be able to do projects in the communities.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So yeah, make sure your collectives are not too big, because there's plenty of money, you know, to go around, so to speak. All right, other questions? All right.
I have a question. I'm sorry. I feel like maybe I'm just like, I'm beating the dead horse here, but I work for a nonprofit and I've been assigned to write a grant for our organization. I am not going to be paid out of this in any way. I'm just doing it as part of my job.
Okay.
But I'm also an artist and my partner is too, and we were going to apply together on our own. So I'm wondering.
No, you're fine.
That doesn't complicate things if I'm writing this on behalf of a certain organization.
No, as long as the nonprofit that you were writing the application for, you are not a named artist that they will hire.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Thank you.
Yep. Yep. So I wouldn't even know that if you didn't tell me. Right.
Awesome. Thank you.
Okay. Other questions? Was somebody raising their hand?
I'm sorry, okay. I don't know how to do the hand thing.
Oh, it's okay, Anne. Go ahead.
Are the interpreters, like the sign language and language interpreters, they be considered artists?
You mean as part of the work that you're doing?
Because I want to have that interpretation at each you know, event. And it seems to me that that's quite an art to be able to do sign language.
I don't know. We would probably have to ask the California Arts Council if that's considered an artist, because my initial answer would be no. That would be part of your programmatic expense, because it's when you're already showing your work, right? It's not in the creation of your work. It's when it's done and you want to show it.
I'll have to think about that. Okay, thank you.
Okay, yeah, that's the way I'm interpreting your question. So if it's not that, then you know, send us an email and we will answer that question for you. Are there any other questions? Okay, so what we do not fund, so this is a document that's coming from the California Arts Council. So these are just limitations in terms of that 20% for the program expenses and overhead and admin that is not allowable as far as using your funds. And is that Irene? Irene, you have a question?
Yes, I did have a question. I am representing a few nonprofits. They're 501c4, and they have fiscal sponsors. And I wanted to know what information would be needed from the fiscal sponsors. I didn't see that in this document.
Yeah, it is there. So can you scroll up, Yaz, as far as a letter of agreement? So all the way up to eligibility. So under who can apply, it says that if you are seeking a fiscal sponsor, we need a letter of agreement between the fiscal sponsor and the organization, so that it could be spelled out in terms of what is expected as far as the roles of each entity.
And that would be included in the application when it's turned in.
Correct.
All right. So just the letter. Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Just a letter of agreement, just to make sure there's no surprises if the award is, if you are awarded. Okay, and then timeline. So this is just, you know, something for all of you to keep in mind, that May 1st is the application deadline. And then the week of June 5th is our decision-making meeting. So we have about a month to actually review the applications. We will have 2 review teams, one for the individual artist applicants and then another one for the nonprofit entities. So 2 review panels will be taking a look at your applications and then scoring them. June 15 is when we expect the grant awards to be announced. The program period for both projects of individual artists and nonprofits to hire artists will be July 1 to June 30th. So it is a year-long program. And then between July 1 and September 15, we really want to be able to showcase the projects, the completed projects out of this whole program. So that would be the time wherein there's going to be all kinds of activities to happening within the different regions, whether it's going to be in San Bernardino, Riverside, or the desert area. So all of that kind of a culmination of all of the projects funded will be happening, and then of course final reports. Any questions about the timeline?
So yeah, no question about the timeline, but in the chat, Pat asks, it says, see attachment. Where is that attachment with what you don't fund? I couldn't find that attachment. I think Yaz is showing you where to find that. It's in the application itself, right there on the, yeah, that part.
So it's one document. So it's pretty typical, and this is really pertaining to the 20% of your project budget that's not related to paying the artist or artists. Okay.
And then we have another question from Anne. Are reporting requirements detailed?
Yes, and that's going to be based on guidance from the California Arts Council, which we do not have at this point. So that's kind of part of, where are we now? Oh, okay. So are there any more questions? We're
no
good?
more questions in the chat, but I think
Okay.
Irene has her hand raised.
Yes, I did. I was looking at this list of dates for workshops and virtual office hours, networking and support. And there are a lot of days. Some are on the same day as others. So are these workshops and and sessions a requirement of this grant?
No, no, these are all opportunities for you to be able to answer any questions you might have about the application process.
Okay.
So the project narrative, budgeting, working with artists, accessibility, you know, these are all informational as needed. None of these are required. So it's for your own education if you want to. And then there's the office hours where it says support and mentoring. So for example, with IECF, I will be hosting a session for those entities that are interested in public health. This is a networking thing. So, you know, it's kind of like a matchmaking thing. We're in nonprofits who are involved in the public health arena, who want to hire artists, and artists who want to work on public health issues. Is opportunity to connect. So that will be next week from 3:30 to 5. And then the support and TA, again, that is an opportunity for individual applicants to ask specific questions about their applications.
Okay, thank you for clarifying.
Yeah, and so the same thing for all the other ones where it says support and mentoring, CDAC, that's California Desert Arts Council. So if you are within the Coachella Valley region, you want to take advantage of that. Same thing with Arts Connection in San Bernardino and Riverside Arts Council. But you don't have to, you know, just focus on these particular arts councils. You can actually take advantage of the sessions based on your availability. So we wanted to make sure that all of us, you know, spread out our Zoom office hours to give everyone a chance to be able to ask their specific questions. Erin?
Hi, I had a quick question about the project. So I teach at a high school, and I'm interested in, but I'm also an individual artist, and I'm interested in doing a project, proposing a project that basically would be a social justice, environmental piece, an art project, which would culminate into an exhibition of work, of student work. Are we allowed to propose that the majority of the art workshops would be aimed at student artists?
Sure.
Okay, yeah. Like specifically within our USD?
Yeah, as long as you are applying as an individual artist and not our USD. Because our USD as an entity is not eligible to apply.
Right. Okay, wonderful. So as an individual artist who is also a teacher, I could apply in that way. Okay, wonderful.
Yep, because the money's going to go to you.
Right.
And then, you know, you decide how you want to use your money.
Thank you.
Sure. Any other questions about the workshops and technical assistance?
I just had one question about the mixers.
Yeah.
Are those organizations already affiliated and funded, or is it possible for applicants to reach out to them to serve as partners or participate with them in their projects?
Oh, absolutely. So let me explain about, can you scroll down? Yes, please. So the mixers are really opportunities for matchmaking, right? This is an in-person opportunity for individual artists and nonprofits to come together and really have conversations. That's really what it is. There is no, these are all locations. So these mixers are in different locations, you know, for the, you know, for individuals or nonprofits that are in that community to be able to get together. But certainly, you know, you don't have to, again, stay within your boundaries. You can, if you're from Riverside County and you want to be able to work in San Bernardino County in a quartile 1 community, then go attend the mixer at the Garcia Center for the Arts, right? This is your opportunity to really kind of expand your horizon, so to speak, outside of your community, if that's what you want to do. So it's an opportunity for engagement and really to be able to connect individual artists and nonprofit organizations. You can go to all the mixers if you'd like, just to see who's going to be in the room.
Fabulous.
And these are all in person. And yeah, I mean, you know, it's a social. It's a social event, is what it is with, of course, info sessions and all of that. But it's basically a social event. Engagement. It's all about engagement and connecting.
So Julia has a question. Coachella Valley Mixer. Do we have a date and time yet?
No. Kristen Dolan is the executive director for that one. I think she's finalizing it either today, tomorrow. So we will make sure. So Yasmin, can you touch base with Kristen to see if she's got the location and date pinned down? So we'll put that up on the website as soon as we have it confirmed. Okay, so moving on, if we don't have any more questions, data collection, evaluation, and reporting expectations. This is again disclosure that the California Arts Council expects us to collect data. So therefore, we are expecting to collect data from you. You will be provided with support as far as the evaluation and data collection component. So there is intention to engage an entity that will help all our grantees to be able to deliver the deliver the data that is going to be expected by the California Arts Council. So not to worry about that. It's just about disclosure that we will be collecting data. Scroll down, please. And I talked a little bit about the application review and the criteria. So it is going to be based on the questions that are going to be asked in the narrative, and it's going to be in 4 different buckets. So I can talk a little bit about that when we go on the online portal and let you know what the percentages are or the point systems will be in terms of how well you answer the questions. Okay, let me see, where are we now? And then how to apply. So before I turn it over to Yasmin for that, we are asking supplemental documents to be included with the online application. These are all going to be uploaded as part of your online portal application. As stated for the organizations, C3 documentation, project budget and narrative, your current operating budget, and for fiscal sponsors, your letter of agreement if you are an organization or agency that's applying. And for individuals, it'll be a letter of recommendation from a community partner, 1 for individuals applying, and 2 if you're a collective. At least 1 artistic work to be uploaded as an example, and then project budget, project narrative, and then for the collective applicant, we do need some kind of letter of understanding, you know, about your partnership. So if you're a lead artist and you've got 2 other artists working with you or that you are mentoring, just give us a statement about, you know, how you're going to be working together and what how they're going to be compensated as part of the application. If you have any questions, about completing the application or need clarity on any of the guidelines, email the questions to creativeye@iegives.org. Notification of results. We do intend to send decision letters by June 15 to all applicants. And we are asking to please not contact us after you've submitted the application, because we will be in review mode for that month to make sure that we meet our decision release deadline. Okay.